So I really thought that this project was cancelled, but somehow we got Snow White moving forward, and we got a teaser of the movie that I'm about to, well, go through it with extreme prejudice. But let's start by saying that this is just a teaser, and maybe the effects are not done yet. To spare you the pain, I will not play any of the music in here because honestly, I really didn't like it, and I'm sure that you won't like it either. But right out of the gate, I'm going to say that the effects in this case, this is the first scene that we got. Snow White with, I don't know if this is Bambi, or is this a crossover, or what. She's looking at the dwarf's house, and one thing that I notice in the aesthetics of this is that they are not going for the full-blown realism. You can see that not Bambi is not as realistic as we have seen in productions like The Lion King, that you know that they went for this all-out realism that took away all that, the charm of the animation, the original animation that was just fantastic from that Renaissance times of Disney. But right now they went like halfway through, so that's going to be a bit of a contrast or maybe conflict between the ultra realistic Snow White and whatever is around her. So it's a bit odd. Disney invites you when you see the animals. Some shots are a bit too, well, in this case, maybe dreamy. Again, these effects might not be totally ready yet, but we know for a fact that the aesthetics of the animals, at least, are gonna be not that realistic. And there's a bunny around here. It's a little bunny, this little cute bunny here. This is the aesthetic that they are aiming for, okay? Not ultra realistic. I think maybe this was because of budget reasons. Maybe they wanted to do something that did not cost that much to make or didn't take that long to render. But I certainly have seen people making Blender projects or projects in Blender and animation way more polished than this. So they had to put out something. And I guess that since Bob Iger won that battle behind closed doors, maybe he felt that something had been done. We got a few shots here. For example, this feet of a dwarf walking in. This is not a rabbit. There's a hare, right? It's like a frozen in the background for some reason. It's barely moving, and we also have we have this. This is not Bambi's cousin, looking at the shadow of the dwarves. Again, this is the kind of movies that one asks, why is it being made? Because it's just almost like a frame by frame, scene by scene recollection of the original. We already have the original, which is an actual masterpiece with all the technology that Walt Disney had to create, like the layers to have that depth of field and have that effect of having that 3D effect. It was just groundbreaking at the time. And right now, with all the 3D that we got and all the CGI, I'm not gonna say that it has become boring, because if done well, you can have. I'm gonna tell you that this shot was nice, of course. I could say that it was an improvement in terms of aesthetics. I don't understand how we have like 6 dwarves and the last one has like a skirt. Maybe it's for inclusivity, or I don't know. Maybe it's something that they wanted to include. You have maybe it's like a kilt. I don't know. That would be rather cool. Scottish dwarf. And then we got the dancing scenes, which are, well, nightmare fuel. A couple of things here. First, this is why I tell you that this must be not ready special effects, especially because you see movement in Snow White and the dwarves. You don't see much of their faces, and for a reason, you don't see any close-ups of their faces. I'm gonna explain why. And there's nothing moving in the background. Okay, the background is kind of painted. You see, you have a couple of birds that barely flying in and out. You see Snow White singing. You don't want to hear singing. Go away. At least we have some facial expressions here, something that is not going to happen later, but bear with me with this. These facial expressions are really subtle, but they are there. But when we change, again, the lighting, I could say that it's nice, it's warm. The framing could be a bit more interesting. Okay, there's another interesting facial expression here. Why I'm mentioning the dwarves so much? Because, well, they must be important to the plot and their personalities. You know that was charming about the original, but then we have the expressionless dwarves. Like, they have zero expression in their faces as they are like dancing. This guy that should be the one who was smiling second before right now has, well, he is as expressionless as Pinocchio before, you know, all the fairy thing, all the fairy dust thing, you know, Pinocchio, the nose, fairy dust, that's not the Pinocchio I'm talking about. And you see that the other dwarves are also dancing, and they should be happy, but well, this one looks like Bernie Sanders. I'm once again asking you to not eat that red apple. No facial expression on this guy whatsoever. Maybe, and these two are also dancing, and they're also a bit, well, stiff in their faces. There's absolutely no facial expression whatsoever. Again, this could be just a preliminary effects reel, and they haven't animated the faces yet. You know that when you animate a character, usually you animate from the most general movements up to the most tiny details, like from the general to the specific. Maybe they hadn't animated the faces yet. But at the same time, it's much more practical these days to just have, there's an actor with full mocap, the tiny dots that they have on their face, and microphones, so you can capture that movement. It's much easier to do it this way. Maybe they hadn't baked the mocap yet. We have a bit of a nice facial expression here, but again, still, the dwarves, the animals, the setting look too disjointed from Rachel Ziegler. She looks too real, and they look a bit, a bit plastic. I'm not saying that this kind of stories, you're gonna make everything realistic, but at least you want to make it seem like they belong to the same universe. Like there's not this huge separation between the aesthetic of the protagonist in this case with whatever is going on around her. But maybe I'm judging too harsh on them. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Still no movement in the background, nothing moving in the background. 2025, we still have a few months away. These shots, again, I've seen Blender projects, people on their own that look much better than this. This still needs a bit of polishing. It looks a bit bland. It's like they just built this city and just put it there. It doesn't look very lively to me, especially. It's a bit odd that all the buildings have a same color. Maybe that's like part of the HOA rules or whatever. And this shot, I wanted to talk about this shot. And it reminds me of why I could say that this is a green screen, because I don't know why it lacks so much depth. It's like you want to believe that there's actual, there's a space around her, but it looks like she's at the well, and everything around her is, well, it doesn't look like it's there. It's that CGI effect. Maybe I'm pretty sure this is CGI. I would love to be corrected about this. I have some experience in digital effects. This shot was nice, I guess, but I would like to stand corrected. We have shots like this that waste so much space in nothingness. We have barely the head of the queen right here, Snow White here. We have a few street lamps, but what is this? Is this like the town square? Why is nobody around? Where is everybody? Like, why so alone? This, and I can understand why so gray, because this is the like the evil queen realm, but at the same time we don't have enough distress in the details of the rocks, and the wall behind her looks a tad flat. This is just like an empty banner without any decorations whatsoever. There's no embroidery, there's no design, just a straight color on both sides. What is that for? You usually have a design. There are no lions and embroidery and some texture. This is lacking detail and texture in so many ways, and I don't know if she's wearing a Venom suit or something, but I don't know. Maybe she gets help from someone to wear this, because how did she get into that suit, that dress? Oh well, whatever. Maybe I'm asking too many uncomfortable questions, especially the way of how in the world Gal Gadot is gonna be jealous of Rachel Ziegler in terms of beauty. Maybe she's jealous in terms of Snow White is younger, and maybe it's the combination that Snow White is beautiful and younger. That's what makes the evil queen be jealous about her. But I'm trying to explain the reasons behind the casting, which I shouldn't be doing. I'm trying to help the casting people in here, which I shouldn't be doing, but it is what it is. Some fire effects, nice. I expected to see the mirror's face. Some guards, faceless guards, of course. Maybe they're going to be killed at some point. This one looks like Solid Snake. That would be a nice cameo. Solid Snake in Snow White. I would pay good money for that. And the sword is used, and the prince, which is all green. Wait a second. We have green in the queen's color scheme. We have this close up of the queen, and the color scheme is green. All right, maybe a green with envy. You know that green is usually associated with envy, right? We could say that there's are more like shades of blue. But then the first shot that we have of the prince, I guess that this is the prince. He is also dressed or decked in green. I don't know. That is a bit of a confusing. Maybe this is some kind of foretelling. How do you say when you have this premonition about something, or like you're sending a signal about something that is going to happen in the future? Maybe the prince is actually associated with the evil queen, and that's why they are wearing the same color scheme. Wouldn't be surprising. You know that Rachel Ziegler already said that this was going to be not about the prince charming and stuff, but Snow White being strong and stuff. This dwarf hand, I mean, so this again. I haven't seen. Maybe I don't have a high resolution copy of the video. I'm going to blame in that blame the quality on that. But again, well, I'm gonna give it a pass. We have suddenly a completely out of context action scene in the in the mines, and we already have another shot of the queen. This time that shade of blue and green. Absolutely no depth to the scene. The background is meh. It's like, I understand that you want to put the like all the focus on the queen, but this is like a bit too bland, too flat. We have her hand on the throne talking to some peasants. Maybe she's going to punish them for something. You got Snow White that really likes apples. We got the Rachel Ziegler. I already see that there are people complaining about her hairstyle. It looks odd. It looks like King Farquaad from Shrek, but whatever. She's like all that happy, and the queen doing the Snape thing. This absolutely looks like Snape going down the stairs, and then she transformed into the evil witch, which is which looks like Ron Perlman. You remember Ron Perlman? Okay, that the guy went nuts, but whatever. And then nice scepter, and then the apple scene looks really nice. I always ask why waste so much poison potion for a single apple? Why don't you, I don't know, make those apples by the dozen? And it's like, how much material are you wasting here? Well, we move on, and we have the Prince Charming again. Prince, whatever his name is decked out in green, the same color scheme that we saw the Evil Queen in. So I find it a bit like foreshadowing. That is the word that I was looking for, foreshadowing. And she battles against a tree. Maybe she's like, I don't know, Kirby, battles trees, or Cuphead. It's for a video game or something. It's like Monster Hunter or whatever. And she is trapped by a tree and is swallowed by the tree, whatever. And we don't see her again. And she falls. And then we see demonic, not Bambi, going to her. And this is ripe for a parody. This is ripe for a parody, not Bambi saying, "Rrr." And just, I digress. And then everything like pops up, and we are at the dwarves realm. I don't know how this connects. I guess that this this well that she's in, this is somewhere in the, that bluish realm of the queen, and then she falls in here, meets not Bambi, not Demon Bambi, and then she appears at the, like, we go full circle to the start. So this is the first teaser for Snow White and the not seven dwarfs. I don't know how they're gonna call it. It's just Snow White. I think this is just Snow White and the Evil Queen or something like that. Snow White, and then we had a final shot of her grabbing the apple. This girl really loves apple. Maybe she stands in line every year to get the first iPhone, or the next iPhone, or something like that. I'm digressing. I've made too many videos today, but I would like to know, what do you think about this teaser, about the idea of finally watching Rachel Ziegler on the big screen as Snow White? Let me know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. This is the Screen Surgeon. Much love and bliss.